I think wanting and desire is always about the result. A calling is about the process. Calling is something you're excited to wake up and do every day. A couple of years later, I was invited to an event by my friend. And so this monk was invited to speak and I didn't even want to go. And I literally said to my friend, I said, I'll only go if we go to a bar afterwards. Like, that's the only way I'm coming out. The reason why I'm sharing all of this is I want people to realize how opposite this was of me.
Right.
Because it's not like I grew up as a spiritual kid or a religious kid or a kid I was totally the opposite. And then I go to this event because my friends say, yes, we'll go to the bar afterwards. And I'm completely floored and speechless because everything this monk is saying is completely cutting through to my heart.
Wow.
And he's talking about like selflessness and he's talking about service and he's talking about living a life that is worth of sacrifice for other people. And I'm thinking, why is this appealing to this 18-year-old guy? But it is, like, all of it's appealing to me. I end up spending time with him afterwards, you know, like you network. So I went to network with a monk and I
like,
pushed,
hey, you got a card?
Yeah, exactly. Like, can I get you a drink? And I go up to him and I say, you know, everything you just said, like, really connected with me. It really felt powerful to me. And I said, I'd love to experience more of this. And so he said, well, why don't you come and join me this week? I'm traveling in London, in England. So why don't you just come and hear me this week, speak and get to know me better? And I did. And then that led to me actually going to live with him in India. So I spent all of my summer holidays, we don't say vacation, summer holidays, from 18 to 22 while I was at university. Every break I got, half of it I spent interning at financial companies in London.
Okay.
And so I'd be in bars, steakhouses, and suits. And then I'd spend the other half of my summers living as a monk in India, dressing in robes, meditating, sleeping on the floor. And then when I graduated, I decided to do it for real.
And
so
you
I had
went
all
into
those
monastery for 3 years?
Yeah, 3 years. Yeah, that's right.
What were you doing in the monastery exactly?
So we would wake up at 4 a.m. every day. And half of our day was dedicated to self or silence. And the other half was service.
Self or silence?
Yeah, so you'd spend half the day working on yourself. So that means self-study, self-meditation, silence, group meditations, prayer, the type of things you expect monks to do.
Right. Okay.
And that's like half of your day.
Okay.
But then the other half is totally about service. So we would be building schools, we'd be feeding homeless children, we'd be trying to develop sustainable villages and food distribution programs that were helping and serving tons of people in India. And so I chose this path because it was this perfect balance between self and service. And the way it was taught to us is that everything you do in the part of the self day, you then go and give it away in the service and you learn more. And then you come back and do more self-realization and then service.
It's like a cycle.
Yeah, exactly. 3 years in, I had pushed my body to extreme limits.
Like fasting.
Fasting, and I'd sleep very little because I wanted to see the power of meditation. I had this side of me that wanted to make what I was learning even more relevant, even more accessible, even more practical. And this is all in hindsight. I didn't know this then. And my teacher said to me that he felt it would be better if I left so I could share what I'd learned.
Wow.
And
so he wasn't kicking you out.
Well, it felt like that. Because at that time I didn't have this hindsight of, oh yeah, maybe I was in the wrong place or maybe I'd done my time. At that time I was like, I want to do this and I'm pushing. And literally he comes out and he's just like, you know, it's not you, it's me. It's like, it feels like one of these awkward breakup conversations. And I'm thinking, I just gave up everything. Like, I broke up with my girlfriend. I left, you know, all my jobs. I turned down my jobs. I left my family. Like, I gave up everything to do this. But then it was like this revelation, both internally and from him, where I was like, maybe this isn't right for me for life. And that probably is one of the hardest things to ever have to go through. If you've made a plan and a vision in your mind of how you want your life to look like, and then it feels like it's just been taken away, and mine was to be a monk, which sounds like the weirdest thing. But if someone takes that away from you, it hurts.
Well, that's an interesting statement because it's like you felt a calling to be a monk, but then your teacher said, oh no, I think that there's been a different calling for you.
Yeah.
What's the difference for you between a calling and a desire? Because it sounds like you had both.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's a great question. That's a great question. A desire is something that you push, and a calling is something that pulls you, right? That's the difference. And you're right. I think you're spot on. I think it was both. I don't think I was naturally meant to be a monk. I was someone who was trying to rediscover myself and work through so much of my teenage years. So
it was for a moment.
For me, it was a transformation. It was like going to school. But at the same time, it turned into a calling because I got so fascinated by serving, and I got so fascinated by wanting to make an impact. And I got so fascinated by wanting my life to mean more than just being successful or just being material. And I think that's what I got introduced to.
my belief is that like you have to do the work in order to get to where you are or where you want to be. And there's so much like empty prayer or empty meditation that goes into so much of people's desires or wants or callings. And I think that sometimes we just have to either be still and wait for that moment to pull us, or be proactive in what it is that you truly want to do, because you were being proactive in going and talking to that monk.
Correct.
You were being proactive in spending your summers with him. But then it was a pulling that took you to actually go live in the monastery. So it's like, it does take both to get to where you want to be.
I couldn't agree with you more. I did a podcast a few months ago, and it's called The Myths of Manifesting. And I think that's really one of the myths that we have, that we just believe that just thinking and just willing and just meditating or just praying and suddenly someone's going to sprinkle some fairy dust and poof, like the genie's going to turn up and, you now are that person. I think the challenge is that we have to get the balance right. And it can't be about the result. I think wanting and desire is always about the result. A calling is about the process. Calling is something you're excited to wake up and do every day. When you have a desire, it's just like, oh yeah, I want to be on the top of that list, or I want to be at the top of that.
Yeah, because we have desires in our careers.
100%.
But we also have a calling to be where we are today.
It's the balance. It's both together, right? You want to do the prayer and the meditation and the manifesting, but then you want to go and follow that up and do the work and go do the meetings and the strategy. You have to embrace polarities. And what I mean by that is people are like, do I need to be sincere or do I need to be strategic? I'm like, you need to be both. Sincerity and strategy together is a lethal combination. Whereas if you're just sincere, then you're not practical. And if you're just strategic, then you're not intentional. And you don't want to be lost by either of those. You want to have both.
There you go.
Right?
Faith is important to you. And you talk